Hello guys, so today we're going to be talking about string function. In my last video I talked about strings and we talked about initialization and we talked about difference between initialization and variable assignments, and we talked about why this code is not going to work. So we talked about this, why it's not going to work. So we discussed this in my last video. So today we're going to be talking about string functions and how to use them. String functions, these are functions that we use to do some things with our strings. So if you want to do anything like you want to copy strings, you want to add, or you want to join, or you want to search for character, or you want to check for password if the person's password is correct. So we use this. Let's say the person you have a program that asks for password and this person put his password. We use this to check if the password is correct. So it's going to give access only if the password is correct, and if this password is not correct, it's going to that's the way we do this. So we use this to check what the person entered, and we check this. If it's correct, then it's going to give access. That's how we write the program. So if it's not correct, it's going to tell you that your password is incorrect. So we all know this, like most times when you try to log in application and you're trying to put wrong password, it's going to tell you that your password is not correct. We use this also in C program. So this is just the low level language, so we're still going to be doing Python, but this understanding C is going to make you a better program in any language. So it's very important. So now today I'm going to be talking about this, why this is not going to work. And this is not going to work because according to language rule, you can't assign strings directly inside a variable after declaration. So now I'm talking about array. So this is an array. So we all know what we mean by array. So this is not just a single character variable. So this is an array. So this is only about array. So you can't assign strings inside an array variable after declaration. So now if we can't do this, how are we going to do this? So that's the question. So if this is not allowed, how are we going to do this? So to do this, we have to use string functions. First of all, we're going to be using strcpy. strcpy, we call this string copy. So this is just the short form of string copy. strcpy, we use this to copy strings inside a variable. Let's say here, after declaration, I need to, since this is not going to work, so this is not going to work, we know that this will actually work, but this is not going to work. This is what I mean, this is not going to work. So since this is not going to work, then we have to find a way to do this. So I'm going to be using string copy for this one. So how do we use string copy? We use it like this, exactly like the way we write it. So strcpy, and the destination, we have to include the destination. So this is our destination. So this is the variable. This is the variable which is the destination. So we have to write the destination. So it's going to be A. Then we're going to be using comma and the strings we want to copy. So we're going to be writing that. So it's going to be this. So whatever we want to copy, then we're going to do this. So this is how we do this. After this is going to work. So this is allowed, this is going to work. So this string copy is going to assign this, is going to copy these strings. So it's going to copy these strings and it's going to send them inside this array. So what you need to make sure you need to make sure that the size of your array is enough. This make sure that is enough for you to assign, the strings. So if it's not enough, then it's going to give an error, because the size. Also, I talk about the size, then I talk about string terminator. So also this string copy, also it's going to insert string terminator also. So you need to make sure that you have enough size for this to work. So you need to have enough size. So also we have another option. This we call this string length. So we use this to count the number of strings. So it's going to count the number of strings. So let's say after assigning this, I want to know the number of strings, and this return integer. So it's always return integer. So it's just going to count the number. So it's just going to look at the strings, then it's going to count like this, one by one, and it's going to see that this is 5, and it's going to give us 5. That's how we use it. So let's say I'm trying to count this after assigning this inside the array. So str length. So we call this string length. So str length, it means string length. So we use this to know the length of our strings. So if I'm trying to count this, I'm going to put the variable that I'm trying to count. So this variable have to be, array that we store our strings, and we want to count it. So I'm going to be using a. So here I can't just write something like this, because this function always returns something. So if I write something like this, then this function is not going to work, because I have to return the number. So now it's going to count this, but it does not know where it's going to put the numbers. So here I have to declare a variable, let's say b, and now I'm going to use count. Variable count equal to this. So I'm going to be using this. So now this, what we're trying to do here, I try to declare this variable, and here I try to use this function, and now it's going to work. So it's going to count this variable. What we did here, we declared this variable. Now we assign strings inside the variable, and now we try to count the number of strings. So this is only valid for strings. So this is only going to work for string. It does not work for numbers. So you can't use string length to count numbers. It does not work like that. So this is only valid for strings. So we have to take note of this. Then the next one is string catenation. So this is the string cat. What we mean by cat is going to join the strings. So it's not going to replace. String copy, always replace. So let's say a, if we have values inside a, is going to replace everything. So I'm going to be making an example of that. We talk about array. We said array is just an array of, it's just, different compartments. So let's say this array variable. So array is just different compartments where we're going to be storing values, and these values are stored one by one. So let's say we're trying to store this one. So here is going to be age, and here is going to be he and L, like this. Then we're going to use our string terminator. So now if we check the size here, the size is 15, so which means we see more space here, and here is going to be empty. So there's no value here, there's no defined value yet. So now if you take a look at this, we see that after assigning values, this is how this variable is going to look like. So this variable is going to look like this after assigning values using this. Then if you want to count, this function is going to come here, then it's going to count, and this is how it counts, and it counts like this: 4, 5, 5, and this function is going to count, and once it gets to this place, this means string terminator, so it's going to stop counting. So this is a signal, so this serves as a signal to this function to stop counting. So that's what I'm trying to explain. So it's a signal, string terminator, so it's a signal to stop counting. So then it's going to return the numbers, so it's going to return 5 here. So let's say I'm trying to assign another value inside here. So if I change this to London, so if I change this to London, string copy is going to replace this, so it's going to replace all of this, so it's going to replace all of this with London. So here you're going to be having L, and you're going to be having O, and something like, and so on like that. So you're going to be having all this like this, and this is going to shift here. String terminator is going to be here. So this is how string copy works. So it always replaces, it always overrides, but when it comes to string cut does not override. String cut is going to join. So let's say I'm trying to use string cut. So if I use string cut, let me use this. So now I'm trying to use string cut. Here, string cut is now going to replace, is going to add it. So it's going to add it. So here you're going to be having London here. So you're going to have London. So it does not replace, so it's going to add it, it's going to keep adding. So what you just need to make sure, you need to make sure that you have enough space, so for it to work. So if you don't have enough space, it's not going to work. So you need to make sure that you have enough space, and it's going to join. So that's what we mean by catenation. So this string cut is going to join, it's not going to replace, just like string copy. That's the difference between string cut and string copy. So here, this one we're going to be talking about this, but I'm just going to brief this. This one is when we're trying to search for character. So if we're trying to search for one character inside our strings, we use this function. And this one, when we try to search for strings, let's say inside this LO you want to search for L, so you want to search for L, so it's going to search for it. So we use this to search for strings inside strings. And this one, we use this to check two strings. Let's say for example, if A equals to hello, this is not going to work. This is not going to work. So we don't use, you can't use this to correspond. You can't use this, it's not allowed. So we don't use this, it's not going to work. So instead we use this. And in my next video, this is the first part. So this is actually the first part, so I'm going to be making the second part, and we're going to be talking more about all this. And this question, I'm going to be displaying this question, and if you know this question, please comment and let's see